Now is the time where we might be feeling like we're waking up from a nightmare. With this Aquarius solar eclipse, first eclipse of the eclipse season, and the first eclipse that we are going to have in Aquarius, is feeling like a breath of fresh air and also giving us a chance to repair and come back to ourselves after all that we've been through. Hi, my name is Carly, and this is Water Within Astrology. We are here today to talk about the Aquarius Solar Eclipse happening on February 17th, 2026, happening at 7:01 a.m. Eastern Time. So adjust your time according to wherever you're located on the planet. And so this is a new moon. We just came out of the Leo full moon, and we are moving into eclipse season now because this solar eclipse, this new moon, is occurring at 28 degrees of Aquarius, and we see that the North Node is in Pisces at 9 degrees. Quick little crash course on eclipses. The eclipses occur near the nodes of the moon. So wherever the North Node is located, when we have lunations, full moons, or new moons, around that point, close enough within an orb, we have what's called an eclipse. And when it's right there on the node itself, that is the total eclipse. So this is a partial eclipse. This is also being called the Ring of Fire. If you have been hearing that from other astrologers, it's because the moon is going to block the sun and create a ring of fire illusion where there's a black circle, which is the moon, and then the ring of the sun is going to be around it. So take that for whatever that means to you. I think it's very symbolic. We are moving into this ring of fire at the same day as the Lunar New Year, so the Chinese New Year, which we're moving into the fire horse year. Just happens to be another fire thing there. And we also have Aries and, Saturn and Neptune coming together at the 0 degree point of Aries, and that is also a fire sign. So let's break it all down. Like I said, this is occurring at 28 degrees. The sun and the moon are there together in Aquarius. The closest thing that is there to the sun and the moon is actually Venus in Pisces. Even though it's in a different sign, it is at 8 degrees of Pisces, so that's 10 degrees away. And we have Mars on the other side in Aquarius at 19 degrees as well, which is 9 degrees away. So we actually have 4 planets in Aquarius. We have the sun and the moon, technically not planets, but you know what I mean. Mars at Aquarius at 19 degrees, and we also, of course, have Pluto in Aquarius at 4 degrees now. Pluto has never been this far into Aquarius in any of our lifetimes, so this is brand new territory for Pluto. We have zero roadmap as to where it is taking us, and we are doing our best navigating with the circumstances. And of course, we know that Aries is a cardinal sign. It's the first sign of the zodiac, so it really might feel like we are out here in the wilderness where no one else has been before, and we are just like taking a machete and like trying to like slash our own path through this like wild forest of craziness, and I feel that in my bones. So so I said that Venus is in Pisces, and it is also close to this lunation. Venus in Pisces is a big player, and Venus in Pisces is exalted. So that means Venus is in its favorite place, and that is a really, really positive thing to help with this Aquarius stellium, because the shadow part of Aquarius is to be cut off from your emotions. It is to isolate and to feel like no one understands you, and to be essentially cut off from the feeling of unity and feeling like you've individualized to the point where now you're out there by yourself and you can't come back to the world because you've created too much distance between you and the world. And Pisces is about being one with the world, being one with all things, being one in a spiritual sense, being one as in like merging souls. It could be the act of, intimacy. It really is more pointed to the act of dying, which is not to be an alarming thing. It's the act of the soul leaving the physical plane, moving back into source, moving back to source, and moving back into an ethereal plane. So Pisces rules the liminal space, the in-between, and we're going to get more into that soon. But with Venus and Pisces, I really feel that it is so perfect for Valentine's Day, of course, 3 days before this eclipse is happening. So hopefully this eclipse is not going to put a damper on anyone's plans, because it definitely could be bringing in new love relationships, new sudden shocks and revelations around our love relationships. I know I'm definitely feeling that, and it actually, for me, was the Leo full moon where things just kind of got swept away, and now we're getting ready to come up to this eclipse. I'm recording this on the last quarter moon, so still 1 week away, technically 8 days away, but I am really gleaming into my new life after that full moon, and I'm feeling very hopeful and feeling very optimistic, and I think the assistance of Venus and Pisces is really helping with that. Today is actually the day, tomorrow, the 10th, February 10th is when, Tuesday, Venus moves into Pisces. And so Mercury is already there. Mercury is going to be at 16 degrees of Pisces at the time of this lunation. So we have 2 personal planets there. So with both Mercury and Venus being there in Pisces, we might be feeling a little bit more idealistic, a little bit more dreamy, a little bit more feeling rather than logic. And this is going to be helpful for us because with the Aquarian stellium, we might feel really overloaded with information. We might feel impending doom. We might feel all of the really understandable and appropriate responses that we might be having to what's happening on the world stage. Apathy, lack of motivation perhaps, kind of just like wanting to go off in your cave and rot there and just like turn off all your emotions because it's too much, it's too heavy. But there is hope. And Venus and Mercury and Pisces are going to be telling us exactly where we can trust and where we can lean into those feelings, and we can lean into the feelings of trust, and we can, for instance, like Venus in Pisces. Pisces is my 9th house in the whole sign astrology. And so for me, I'm leaning into my love of travel and really bringing that back into my life to give me more of a feeling of, reminding me, like, why am I here? Like, what makes me feel alive? So there's something there. Maybe just checking out where you have Pisces in your whole sign house and looking at the themes of that house. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I am absolutely available for readings. I would love to talk about this full moon and whatever else you want to talk about. Please message me or visit my website, and I will link that below. But without further ado, let's continue on. We have talked about the Aquarian stellium. We've talked about the planets in Pisces, and of course, the North Node is at 9 degrees of Pisces, and Venus is at 8 degrees of Pisces. So the last thing I'll say about that is whatever direction we're moving forward in, the North Node acts as a true north. And with Venus being there in Pisces, perhaps we are feeling like we want to deepen our spirituality. Perhaps we want to tune in to Source and get the answers as to where we go next from Source. Of course, never outsourcing our authority, because that's what Aquarius is. It's like we're not outsourcing our authority anymore the way we did when we were in Capricorn. And now the Pisces is like, I will tune in. I will be open to hearing what the divine has for me. But also I'm going to listen to my truth. And, the ego wants to come in as well, always. If there's something uncomfortable with the Saturn and Neptune and Aries, we might be having like a battle between the ego and the soul. 2 planets in Pisces, 2 planets in Aries, right there, very close to each other, the end of the zodiac and the beginning of the zodiac. And so there might be some feelings too with Venus and Pisces of like wrapping up old love stories, wrapping up old things that need to be forgiven, because Pisces rules that. So working with that, letting Venus and Pisces soften whatever hard feelings that we are still carrying. And, when we start this new horse year, this fire horse year, we want to start it with a clean slate, and we want to actually be able to run with freedom the way the horse is intended to. And it makes me emotional. It requires us to lighten our load, and it requires us to lay down the things that cannot come with us in the next chapter. And I know it sounds like a broken record. I've been saying it for a while now, and that's because it's a long process. Grief is a long process, and it should be honored. And it should be handled with compassion and with unconditional love towards yourself, knowing that you did the best that you can. And, that's Pisces. So I really, truly hope that this is the most romantic Valentine's Day anyone has ever had, because Venus in Pisces is super happy and is super ready to show its emotions and to really go deep and to connect with others on a spiritual level. And that kind of relationship is it just hits different. So, moving on, let's go ahead and talk about it. Saturn and Neptune coming together, 0 degrees of Aries. They are coming together on actually February the 20th, but they are both at 0 degrees of Aries at the time of this solar eclipse. They're just not at the exact minutes, which the fact that they are even coming together at the exact minutes at 0 degrees of Aries is a huge deal. 0 degrees of Aries is also a world point. And when things are occurring on the world points, that means we are going to be feeling this worldwide, not just individually. And so this could be a turning point for us as a collective. Like I said, this is new territory. Anything can happen. And I want that feeling of anything can happen to be an exciting feeling rather than a feeling that creates uncertainty and fear and worry and lack and whatever else. So we're going to be practicing that for a while, especially since Pluto in Aquarius has never been here in our entire lifetimes. And so what does Saturn in Pisces at 0 degrees of Aries even mean? Saturn is the wise teacher. He is mature. He is heaviness. He is reality. He is restrictions. But he does the hard thing in order to get it done. He does what it needs to do in order to get the long-term results that it wants, which is why Saturn in Aries is actually not happy there. It's in its detriment because Saturn moves slowly. Aries wants to go fast. Aries has a sense of urgency. Aries wants to do it quick and maybe the easy way instead of the hard way because it wants to just get it done, and maybe doesn't have as much forethought as it should when it acts. These are shadow sides of Aries. And with Saturn in Aries, it's going to feel like 1 foot on the brake, 1 foot on the gas. And with it there together with Neptune in Aries, we have the spiritual warrior, right? Neptune is about the spiritual realm. It's about unconditional love. It's about the higher octave of Venus, actually. So Venus works with more mundane type of relationships, like reality relationships. It rules over our coworkers, our friends, our everything like that. Anyone that we relate to in the world that we live in. Pisces and Neptune, very much the same, because Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Neptune is about that unconditional love that is kind of otherworldly and is a spiritual love, like a God love. And so being careful not to get caught up in like making your partner your God with that shadow side there, but also knowing that Neptune in Aries is the spiritual warrior that is protecting and defending what it means to be divine. It's defending the divinity in all things. It's defending the good in the world. And with Saturn there, we have some assistance because we have a sense of discipline around this defending that we're doing. And we have the tenacity to go a little bit longer and hold just a little bit longer, even when it feels like we can't. You know, Aries might want to quit after it's gone through a little bit of hardship, but Saturn says, no, we're not quitting yet. You're not spent yet. You've got more in you, and you've got this, and I believe in you. And, you know, while Saturn isn't normally talking to us very nicely in that way, could be more like the mean coach that is like screaming at you from the sidelines even though you're already dead. You piece of crap! You call that running? You call that working? Just show me what you're made of. You're telling me that's all you've got? Like, you know, in a weird way, that can be really motivating. And so, yeah, letting any rage and anger and uncomfortable feelings that we are feeling, which we most definitely probably are, be turned into motivation to keep going and to run towards our goals and to run towards service towards others and to run towards our dream life, right? Because I've been saying for a while, Saturn and Neptune and Aries is making that dream life a reality, bringing it into reality and setting that spark that starts the engine that gets you going into that dream. So a few things we need to know about Aries first and foremost before we think that everything's just going to change overnight, which it never does with astrology, just so everyone knows. It's just the beginning, right? Aries is just the beginning, but it is the leader. So like I said, it might feel like we're out here with our machete just freaking hacking away, and maybe there's no one following us. Maybe it's just us out here because Aries is number one. He was number one. He will go it alone because that feels safer for Aries. And honestly, that might be the vibe for us right now. I feel that. You know, and realizing like no one is going to advocate for us the way that we can. No one is going to do it for us. No one is coming to save us. We are the ones. And that is also meant to be an encouraging statement, not some kind of thing where it's like, stop being such a victim, pick yourself up off the floor. You know, I understand that like things are really hard right now, like so incredibly crazy. But there can be, a sense of hope that we can derive from that feeling of, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I might as well just strap in and get it done, because what am I waiting for, right? Like, and with this being at 28 degrees, this eclipse, it really might also be giving us another sense of urgency on top of the Aries energy. So really just reeling that back in and knowing that we are exactly where we need to be, even with the uncertainty, even with the craziness, even with the chaos. Pisces is chaos. It actually does rule chaos as well as harmony. But so reeling that back in, having that in our awareness around 28 degrees. Whenever anything happens at 28 degrees, 29 degrees, that's called the energetic degree, and that can really create a sense of urgency and really bring that message in way louder than it normally might. So, moving on. So, the North Node is still in Pisces, but we will be having the North Node move into Aquarius on July the 26th. So, like I said, we're going to be having more eclipses in Aquarius, and this is the first one. It's actually definitely going to be the loudest one, because we have this eclipse is going to be squaring Uranus. Uranus is in Taurus and is finishing up its time there. It's at 27 degrees. Uranus will move into Gemini on April 25th and will be there until 2033. So that is a huge shift coming up as well, on top of Neptune and Saturn moving. Neptune has been in Pisces since 2018. And Saturn has been in Pisces since March of 2023. So thinking back to 2018, looking at how our spiritual journey has transpired since then, how we have maybe started our spiritual journey, or we've deepened it, or we have avoided it, right? Pisces is also avoiding, really Aquarius is avoiding, Pisces is escapism. Pisces is like, get me the fuck out of here. Like, I'm out. It's disassociation, it's addiction, it's mental illness even. And so there's all of those things that could be happening right now, and it's so scary and sad, but like, we have a new beginning. We have that 0 degrees of Aries, that 0, which is an egg, right? In numerology, we think of that as the cosmic egg, this like infinite potential, which anything can come from. Anything you want, guys, anything you want is yours at this point. If you have been going through big tower moments and big grief around letting go and shedding old skins, end of the snake year, haven't heard that one before. Yeah, whatever you've let go of, it has been so fucking painful. Just know that it has been making room for you to make a decision about what the next part of your life is going to look like. We are at the precipice of a new era. And, you know, Neptune in Pisces in Aries is like, yeah, like a new earth. And so anyways, I think once Neptune gets into Taurus, we're going to really start to feel that new earth vibe. So I know we are not there yet, but like, just imagine how much more we can get done in the next, you know, what is it? 4 + 3 is 7. 7 years. We got 7 years, Neptune and Pisces. Math is hard, guys. 7 years. Like, what can we do with that fiery Aries energy to create that new earth energy, right? I say Neptune and Taurus because Taurus is that earth sign. Taurus is money and all these different things that we really want to see those things change, those real tangible things change. Aries is more about like, I'm changing, right? Like, first we have to change in Aries. And then once we get to Taurus, it's like, okay, then we get to see the results in the world around us. Like I said, things about money, things about our body, Taurus rules that. Things about the earth and the surface of the earth, so dealing with soil and agriculture, Taurus is the bull, so maybe even related to the way that we relate to animals, livestock specifically, maybe pointing to the way that we relate to our food, because food grows on the surface of the earth and livestock walks around on the surface of the earth. And maybe this is also dealing with our relationships as well, because Taurus is also a relational sign. I think Taurus is also bringing us back into our sense of pleasure, because Taurus is a very sensual sign, and it wants us to have pleasure in our lives. Like, it is the sign that reminds us that it's okay to just like kick back and like enjoy the ride, and just like, you know, like remember that we are abundant, and remember that like we have done the work to get to this point, and now we are allowed to like rest on our laurels for a little bit and receive the benefits that we've done. Like, we're receiving the benefits of all the hard work that we've been doing, or the work that we haven't been doing. We're receiving maybe symptoms in the body, because that could be another thing that's coming up. And with it being at 27 degrees, of course, there is also another sense of urgency, and hopefully that does not mean that for us we have, you know, those symptoms that might be coming up, those are getting more serious and they're getting more urgent in the way that, okay, a change has to be made. And Uranus brings the changes, and that's where Taurus is right now, or where Uranus is right now, is in Taurus. So, hopefully that is going okay for everyone. Hopefully we are getting into our own right relationship with the earth, and whatever that looks like for us. I think it's very important. It's a very, very important issue of our times right now, is like the food stuff. And of course, like, you know, the food stamps, and I don't even know if that has come back yet, like whenever that was happening. There's a lot of stuff. So all of that is related to that. I want to say Mercury and Venus are also squaring Uranus now, basically, right? Like, today's the 9th, and I think yesterday, the 8th, was when Venus squared Uranus. So there might be some shocking events that come up before this eclipse, but then that Sun and Moon are both going to square Uranus again. So there might be shocking events leading up, and also shocking events during that time of the eclipse. What I will say about Uranus, since it is one of the ruling planets of Aquarius, this lunation, Uranus is not always bad shocks and surprises. It also is the ruler of Kundalini awakenings, and it's also the ruler of astrology. So maybe you're having a spiritual awakening where you finally start to wake up and say, wow, there's like so much more than just what I've been perceiving in this life, and now there's like this whole new mystical realm that's been opened up for me. And, you know, that can be scary too, and you have resources available. Please, like, use that Aquarian energy of like turning to your community, turning to what's in your toolbox, your spiritual toolbox. And, you know, I'm gonna add some practical things at the end here, but there are resources available if you're someone who's going through that. If you are someone who is like feeling called to do a reading for yourself or do something like that, that's very on time for that energy too. So don't be afraid of Uranus. Uranus is the Great Awakener. That is the term that most people use for it, and I love Uranus. I actually have Uranus in my 7th house, which is my house of relationships. And so, like, for me, it's been very topical right now for what's going on in my life to feel very much like I'm going through a spiritual awakening again. because of what's going on in my relationship. So maybe that resonates with you. It doesn't have to be in your 7th house, but whatever is happening for you, it could be catapulting you into a spiritual awakening. And I truly hope that's what's happening for all of us, actually. So, yeah, if you need support for that, I am available to support people who need that. And I've been there, and I know how it be. So, you're not alone. Aquarius can feel so alone, and it can feel so isolated, and it can feel so misunderstood, but at the same time it rules the community and the greater collective. So let's lean into that feeling of community and collaboration and grassroots, local, like, well, it doesn't have to be local even, it can just be like taking the money out of the hands of the billionaires and millionaires and giving it back to the people. Power to the people is Pluto and Aquarius. I'm going to say that for the next 20 years. And so, like I said in the beginning, this waking from the nightmare, we could have been in seriously toxic cycles with all these planets in Pisces. Pisces is the house of undoing. The 12th house is the place of self-undoing. So like if we are going through psychosis or addiction or whatever, we might finally be waking up out of all of that and realizing like, whoa, where have we been? Like, who has been driving this thing? Like, coming back into the body, right? Aries. Aries is like the part of the soul's journey where it's being born, and it's very like there's screaming during labor, there's like contractions, there's like pain, there's blood, there's cutting the cord, there's all this stuff. And the baby's shrieking its head off and all this stuff. And then it suddenly gets to a point where everything's calmed down, all the chaos is over, and it's like, now it's just this tiny little baby, this tiny little defenseless baby. Anything can happen. This life that has so much potential. And, Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars rules cutting and like swords and sharp things. And so maybe we do really need to finally cut the cord on something, and that can feel really hard, and that can feel maybe really easy right now, actually. So wherever you are with your process, just know it's fine. It's gonna be fine. One of the gifts of Aquarius that we might be receiving right now is the gift of detachment from things that are no longer serving us. Maybe if you are going through a big death and you don't really feel as emotional as you thought you would about it, that's okay, because Aquarius has that power of detachment and reserving its emotions for later, maybe, perhaps avoiding them altogether, but at least maybe avoiding them enough to get what needs to get done. So like Uranus and Saturn are the two ruling planets of Aquarius. Saturn is about getting the long-term goals done. Uranus can be about revolution and taking your power back and feeling a deep awakening and realizing how much you've been giving your power away and needing to take that power back, or maybe just feeling a whole new sense of power at all in yourself at all. Aquarius rules authenticity, so maybe we're seeing where we haven't been authentic and we are just straight up done playing small. We are just straight up done masking for other people, people pleasing. That's the opposite of Aquarius. Is Leo is like, oh, please just love me. Like, please, I'll do anything. Just love me. I want to perform. I want to, do whatever I have to do to get people to love me. And that can include self-sacrificing. And so now we are free. Whatever is happening, know that we are free now to do whatever we want. And doesn't that just feel like a breath of fresh air? Doesn't that just feel like you finally just put down a giant bag of rocks even, like, and now you're free and you can just walk away. And the process of forgiving is occurring, and that takes time, but it's very important not to be avoided, because when we don't forgive people, we let the trauma live rent-free in our nervous system, and that is only hurting us. And when we forgive, it's not that we are condoning or we're, giving anybody the, like, get out of jail free card. It's about releasing ourselves and our nervous system from the trauma. And yeah, that takes time and it takes discipline. So Saturn. We can't talk about the Aquarius solar eclipse without talking about technology, and we can't talk about technology without talking about the crazy news that I heard from Pam Gregory's astrology forecast on Aquarius, talking about how we are actually going to have humanoid robots soon. Like next year soon. A lot of people that I've met who are Aquarian, they have a tendency to lean towards technology, lean into technology more than people. So there's like a sense of these people who are Aquarian being already very robotic, and now we're actually making robotic humans. And so we're taking it a step further, and we're, are we gonna have iRobot in real life, right? Like, I just rewatched that last night. I didn't get all the way through it, but I'm just like looking at this and I'm like, this is set in 2035. Yeah, so that's real now. Speaking of what doesn't seem to be real, we all know what has happened with the files, and some of us are not surprised. Some of us have some denial still that they're working through. Some of them are completely in disbelief, where it's like maybe not even registering as like a real thing, but more like it's not denial, but it's like just so like, what? I feel like I'm one of those people that isn't surprised, but also I'm just like, what is real? I'm not surprised because the divine masculine is going through a huge initiation right now. Chiron has been in Aries for a while, and Chiron will enter Taurus on June 19th. So right now it's at 23 degrees of Aries. Still in that third decan, could still be creating a sense of urgency around the wounding that the masculine has experienced. And Chiron in Aries is like, what happened to us when we were so young that we didn't have any control over us, like when we were babies. And, none of that was our fault. And maybe no one ever acknowledged that within us. And maybe it's up to us to acknowledge it for ourselves. And maybe it's not just, I said masculine because, right, men in general men as in male bodies are experiencing a huge initiation in the collective, but also we all have masculine and feminine within us. And so if you are someone who does not identify as a man, you could also be feeling a masculine wounding, maybe around something that happened with your father, or maybe something around you feeling like you have to work all the time, you have to always be doing, or you feel like you have to be angry, or you have to be scary, or you have to be intimidating, or you have to like have power over things in order to feel in control or to feel okay. And all of that can exist in any of us, no matter what our gender is. So we're all looking at that, and I think that's a big thing. It's going to be a big thing with Saturn there. It's not going to be there anytime soon because Saturn moves slow, like I said, and so does Neptune. So Chiron and Saturn and Neptune will not make a conjunction because Saturn will have moved into Taurus by then, but they're still all there hanging out in Aries, so Aries is being activated, which means we're all going through initiation, that first degree, that like the ram, right? Aries is the ram, and it's like that ram that can just like use its horns and just run at top speed and just like bust through anything it needs to in order to get where it needs to go. And so that's that with Chiron. The divine masculine has been, reaching out and trying to feel loved through these toxic ways of operating. And, like, as crazy as that sounds to say, like, these men who everyone is absolutely, understandably, just completely outraged by, they are men who have just been looking for love in all the wrong ways, and it's so sad to think of how unloved they might be feeling to act in these ways, right? And yeah, I realize I'm just another girl who has empathy for her oppressors. Yeah, I get it. That's the toxic feminine in me, right? I have empathy even for my oppressors. And, while that might not necessarily be an entirely bad thing, it's definitely a bad thing if I have empathy for them and I don't defend myself also from the harm that's being done to me. So maybe we can hold both. It's just a crazy time, and it really has felt like a nightmare. So let us wake up from the nightmare and let us start to heal from what has happened, because good Lord. So what is there to do to prepare for the long distance run that we have coming up? We have the Fire Horse year. Like, she's gearing up. She's right now, this week before, she's getting her hair done. She's getting her hooves sharpened or polished or whatever the heck they do to horses. She's getting her saddle on. She's getting all the logistics in place to start the race that she's about to take off on. And, like I said, with Saturn there, it's really maybe not going to be as like right out the gate type of energy, even though it might be. But with Saturn there, I think it's going to be like, okay, we're doing this, but we're doing this my way. Maybe like in a long distance run, if you understand, like if you ever ran cross country, that like you can't just sprint the whole way. You have to pace yourself. So let's keep that in mind as well. Saturn's keeping us in check and keeping us on the ground as well, because Neptune is like, woo-hoo, I'm all up here in my imaginary rose-colored glasses world. And Aries is like, yeah, let's do it. Let's work from impulse. Let's just do it. And Saturn's like, all right, you guys. Let's really look at the facts here. Let's look at the reality of it all. I will say Venus is in Pisces and Jupiter is still in Cancer. Those are the two benefic planets that bring good fortune. They are in their favorite places to be, both at the same time. This might actually be a really wonderful time for us to be receiving blessings from the universe. With eclipses, we don't really have to do that much. I don't want to say don't do anything, but eclipses is kind of like that faded energy that feels like, oh, maybe that just fell into my lap, and maybe like some unexpected good things are going to happen with Uranus being squaring the solar eclipse. So let's just make sure and continue to do our best to stay hopeful and not feel like drugged down into despair. So one thing I wrote down is about Pisces being spiritual, right? Aquarius rules technology. And so what does spiritual technology look like? Like, what does that even mean? I think that is Kundalini. And I think, if you know about Kundalini yoga, we use a lot of angles, like sharp angles, and we use movements. We're kind of like becoming our own jump starter for our own energy with Kundalini energy. So think of it like a jump starter for your car, except for you're doing it for your body and your Shakti, which is your life force energy, your feminine energy. So that's just something that came up. Maybe if you've never tried Kundalini before, doing a beginner's class, I offer those classes, and if you're someone who's interested in that, please reach out for that as well, because I definitely offer one-on-one sessions. And I also have resources available if you are someone who doesn't want to do one-on-one. If you just want something that you can do at home, I've got you on that too. And I know that they are having a New Earth meditation on Wednesday, February the 11th, so 2 days from now, with the Buddhist monks that are walking to Washington, D.C. It's a 2-hour meditation. I think it's starting at, I don't remember. But so if you are interested in doing something like that, that is something that I would consider spiritual technology, where we all kind of connect through the World Wide Web, but it's actually just our psychic our psychic connection. Wherever you are, just sitting and meditating and tapping into that collective frequency of meditation, that would be really powerful for us to do right now. I know that's a little bit before the eclipse, but if you're someone who is still outsourcing your thoughts and your life force energy, if you're still outsourcing your life force energy, take it back and give yourself that time of sitting in stillness to hear your own inner truth and to know what needs to come next. So, or at least to know the next right thing to do, right? It doesn't have to be the whole story, the whole plan. It's just what is the next right thing to do? So Jupiter is actually trining the North Node and Venus and Mercury. It means we're being asked to expand our feminine, intuitive, and sensitivities. Listen, if our relationships are not tending to our Jupiter and Cancer energy, if we don't feel at home with them, if we don't feel safe with them, if we don't feel like our sensitivities are being honored, if we don't feel like our emotions are being honored, cut it out, okay? Kick that man to the curb. So, yeah, one more thing I did want to say, and I wrote down about the files and stuff, is we have North Node in Virgo still, and with Virgo, we have a sense of loss of innocence. And it can be so difficult to reckon with that, because our country is grieving collectively, whether any of us really consciously know it or not. We are all collectively grieving, whether or not you were ever a fan of Mr. whatever, you know his name, our Mr. President, whether or not you were ever a fan of him, there's grief there in knowing that the people that were appointed to take care of us as a collective are not doing that. And in fact, they're doing some of the most heinous things that anyone's ever imagined. Nightmarish things. And so there could be a loss of innocence if you were someone who was on his side or whatever, and you like truly believed in him, and like, yeah, maybe now the rose-colored glasses are coming off with that, and it's like, and so the loss of innocence could also be like from ourselves and like whatever we're going through individually, but I definitely see how we're maybe all feeling that in the collective way. So just knowing that that is real and that is difficult to grapple with and requires tenderness and compassion, and yeah, if someone doesn't understand that, there is someone who does, you know? Like, we don't have to spend time trying to convince people to feel empathy. We can just find people that already do, and we can maybe be feeling like that's the changes that we have to make, is like finding people that actually get it. I think for practical resources, trying out Kundalini. Aquarius is an air sign, so breath work is always amazing. It can be as simple as inhaling, count of 3, pause for 1, exhale, count of 4, pause for 1, inhale, count of 3, pause for 1, exhale, count of 4, pause for 1, and like maybe even just sitting in that empty space between the inhales and exhales and seeing what that feels like, because that's very Aquarian, Pisces energy too. It's like the in-between. We're not there yet into the new world, but we're definitely like moving out of the old as well. So like there's this in-between, and knowing that it's safe to be there, right? Like, there's a few cards that come to mind, tarot cards that could be related to what's happening right now. Of course, the Tower card is relevant, but actually the Star card is what the card related to Aquarius is, and the Star card comes after the Tower card. So after we've had our Tower moment where whatever was not built on solid foundation crumbles, we now get to move into the Star card where we get to shine our light, right? Like, especially since Jupiter's going to be moving into Leo in June, we're going to be asked to shine our light authentically with the Pluto Aquarius, and we're being asked to pick ourselves up out of the wreckage of the tower and know that we have a gift that is meant to be shared with others, and to do so with courage, and that Aries energy is going to help us to be courageous, that Leo energy is going to help us to be courageous, because it takes courage to be authentically you and to share your gifts, especially if your gifts are a little bit more on the weird side, like Aquarius, we always say, let your freak flag fly, and it's definitely like, please let it fly as long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. Please, we need everyone's medicine now at this time. And everyone who is here on Earth at this time has a gift and has medicine to share. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I'm so grateful to be here. And for whoever is watching to the end of this video, I just hope that these gifts actually are helping people, right? Like that was something I was dealing with during the Leo full moon. Is like, am I just doing this for my own selfish reasons so I can yell at my camera and yell at the internet? Like, but no, I truly do believe that these messages help people because because astrology has helped me. So may this video reach who it's meant to reach, and I really just hope that it's helpful. And if there's anything else that I can be of service of to you, please let me know. So Let's go ahead and get into the next portion of our video, which is where I pull a rune. If you don't know what the runes are, they are ancient symbols from the Celtic tradition. And each symbol means something. It's kind of like a tarot card, but it's like, you know, these symbols are super old. They're like the oldest known form of magic from Celtic lineage. Okay. So which rune do we need for this Aquarius solar eclipse? First of many. Wow, one just popped out. Okay, so it's the R-shaped one. Oh God, it's so perfect. Guys, it's too perfect. If you can see that. So I always mess up the names, like the traditional names, but each of the symbols have their names. Raidho. Which means horse. Ride, journey. Thor, which is the god of thunder, which is, I feel, very related to Uranus, because Uranus relates to lightning strikes, right? Like that shocking lightning, that's the energy of Uranus. Movement, work, and growth. Perfect. So perfect. So there's that. And now I am going to draw an energy oracle card, because dealing with Aquarius, it's like so like, oh my gosh, energy and kundalini and activations, and I'm making fun of myself right now, by the way. So which card do we need from the energy oracle deck for this collective reading here on YouTube for this Aquarius solar eclipse, beginning of the horse year? Ow, ow! No, that was 2. That didn't count. She's the goddess of the moon. Goddess of the moon. Divine feminine is rising, y'all. I'm not gonna cry. Yes, I am. Yeah, Venus in Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer, both benefic planets in their exaltation in feminine water signs. The divine feminine is rising. Not to mention Black Moon Lilith already just finished up her time in Scorpio. She was in the underworld. She was scavenging for gems in the darkness, and now she's come out, and she's the Phoenix rising in Sagittarius, and she has those gems that she collected. Excuse me. Whew! And she is holding those in her heart, and she is rising back into her power. Again, irregardless of gender, we all have that within us. And so let's lean into, if you are a sorry soul like me on Valentine's Day, I'm just kidding, by the way. I'm so happy. Being single on Valentine's Day, maybe you do some like Galentine's stuff, or you do, a friend thing, or you do a craft night where you get creative into that feminine energy, right? Feminine energy is not just a female body, it is rest. If you've been sleeping half as much as I have been, you have been sleeping a lot, because girl, these dreams, first of all, have been wild. And the amount of sleep that I have had in the past month, specifically, really, really a while, actually. I've been sleeping like a lot. And, I know that's like a thing with depression, and I'm actually just like giving myself permission to rest for once, because I've been in fight or flight for a long time, and my nervous system is finally getting to a point where I can comfortably rest and not feel like if I don't do all the things, I'm gonna die or something, you know? And yeah, let's go ahead and read the message for the goddess of the moon, because whatever it is that we've been too far into our masculine about, now is the time to give ourselves that permission to rest, to lean into, you know, maybe doing like some more yin yoga. If you're someone who's like always like Pilates or HIIT class or whatever, like give yourself that balance, right? And it's not about getting rid of the masculine. It's about balancing the two. That's what astrology is. Always balancing the masculine and feminine energies. Period. Period. All right. Intuition, or going within. That's the theme of this goddess of the moon. This card shows an eternal spirit holding the bright, reflective moon and standing in front of the crystal clear waters of a sparkling waterfall. Her arms are upward, receiving the light of the moon, the light of inspiration. This card is all about intuition, the ability to receive insights from your soul's point of view. Receiving the card upright tells you that you have the power to get intuitive information on all types of issues, and now is the time to use it. The goddess of the moon brings you all sorts of information, from the mundane to the spectacular. For instance, you could get the urge to take a different route home from work and find out later that you've avoided the 3-hour traffic jam. Or you might have an idea for a great invention or stock investment or a spellbinding novel. This card could also indicate a significant blossoming of psychic ability and mediumship, even on a professional level. You're always blessed with this ability to connect, but this card is telling you now that it's a perfect time to open up. Get ready for the amazing inspiration that this brings. Affirmation. Say it with me. Pause and say it after I'm done. I have a strong intuitive voice. I freely receive guidance, and I understand and trust the messages I receive. Say it again for those in the back. Yeah, so really emphasizing sitting in stillness, receiving divine guidance, knowing that you are safe to open up to source, and you are safe to develop your psychic abilities, because we are all deeply psychic beings. We've just covered our psychic beings up with a bunch of crap from the world, and I think we're all on this journey of awakening those abilities together, and that's what that looks like, and that's what it means to have a spiritual awakening. And so paying attention to those subtle changes, those subtle little things that you really might not even notice at first, you know, and that's how subtle they are. And, you know, like it said, where you could have avoided something that was really hard. If you didn't listen to your intuition, you got stuck there. And maybe we're feeling the repercussions of not listening to our intuition. I know I have been ignoring my intuition for the past year and a half about certain situations that I now finally feel free from. So, yeah. Listen. If only we lived in a society where we were taught to listen to our intuition more than taught to live in fear and lack and separation. So that is what I have for you. Thank you so much to whoever has stayed to the end of this video. Like I said, message me if you want a reading. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the lunar eclipse happening on February 3rd at 3:33. Okay, I don't know if it's AM or PM right this second, but just saying, get yourself into alignment, because that one is really gonna be like, hello, are you in alignment? So, yeah, blessings and love to everyone. Happy solar eclipse in Aquarius. Bye.